Ever notice how some anime protagonists feel a bit bland? Well, that's not a mistake. It's intentional. They're meant to be blank slates, so you can imagine yourself as them. But what happens when a bland protagonist doesn't do his job of fulfilling your fantasy? And what if there was a deeper reason for his generic quality, one that was intended to make you uncomfortable? I'm Jonathan, and we're taking a look at a romance protagonist who changed everything we know about love while staying firmly in the friend zone. Nukumizu, like many other male protagonists in the romance genre, has a bland and forgettable character design. He doesn't have a strong personality, he's got the usual otaku hobbies, and he's comfortable being an introverted loner. All this is deliberate because these characters are meant to act as surrogates for the predominantly male viewer. But here's the interesting part. Whereas the average romance anime makes their main characters generic and leaves them that way, Nukumizu is bland to symbolize his initial state as a self-centered loner. He avoids unnecessary contact with his schoolmates, and all he cares about are his light novels. The anime actually paints it as a character weakness. But the genius of this anime is when it exploits Nukumizu's self-centered habits to draw him out of his comfort zone. Look at this scene here. The only reason Nukumizu ended up having lunch with Yanami is because he was a stingy, calculative Scrooge. He wanted his money back, so he had no choice but to meet her at the staircase. But she ended up paying him in lunch bentos, so he practically bought Yanami's time and friendship with money. At this stage, Nukumizu is still very reluctant to develop his social life, but the story's not done with him yet. Enter the special skill trope. In some anime, the male main characters are really smart or super skilled in a certain area. If they're not at the start, they quickly acquire certain outstanding powers through an isekai experience or some other providential blessing. What about Nukumizu? His special skill is to discern which tap in his school unleashes the best tasting water. However, while main characters in other anime use their special skills to establish themselves as alpha males, to attract love interest, a harem, or dominate a certain arena, this anime uses Nukumizu's skill to draw him into social situations, many of them outside his comfort zone. But why tap water? Well, tap water is plain and tasteless to most people. This shows that Nukumizu is easily contented with the small pleasures of life. He's really just a simple guy with simple tastes. So the tap water emphasizes that he lives in a small little world of his own and is perfectly happy with it. Until the anime uses it against him. Look at these scenes here. First, Komari surprises him at the school tap, and so does Hakamada. Shikiya does that too, and Yanami also surprises him drinking tap water at Lemon's grandma's house. The idea is that these characters intrude and burst into Nukumizu's quiet life to jolt him out of his comfort zone. So the irony is that this anime uses his lone wolf behavior and self-centered habits as the gateway for him to connect with others. But there's a problem. Nukumizu sees these incidents as unwelcome shocks and interruptions to his normal routine because he doesn't really care about people. Even when Kaju asked him how things were going, he gives a very strange reply about tap water and faucets instead of people. Something crucial is still missing, and the answer lies right here. These are no doubt the most dramatic and stunning scenes in the entire anime, and we're not the only ones who think so. In each scene, Nukumizu is taken aback by what he sees about the losing heroine. Notice the parallel between these scenes and the tap water scenes. Instead of shock, he feels a sense of wonder, practically starstruck when he sees the heroines crying, their eyes wide open and tears carried by the wind. These dramatic scenes are always followed by a deep heart-to-heart talk between Nukumizu and the losing heroine, who takes an honest look at herself and reality. The idea is that the other characters can only do so much to pull Nukumizu out of the ordinary facets of life when they go looking for him, and all he experiences is shock because he was focusing on himself. But it's only when Nukumizu himself made the decision to go looking for others that he discovered something extraordinary. The anime shows us that when we focus on ourselves, we see people as unwelcome annoyances. But when we start focusing on others, we see an amazing side to people that can challenge and inspire us to grow in ways we never expected. We witness their humanity, their tenacity, their resilience and vulnerability. We learn when to speak up, when to remain quiet, how to empathize and really listen without judgment to what others are saying. We learn how to tell people how we feel and how to get them to say how they feel. Above all, we learn that true love and friendship means respecting a person's freedom to choose, even if their decisions lead somewhere you wouldn't have chosen for them. But just like Nukumizu, we all have a choice when faced with such social situations. Will we double down as pragmatists, minding our own business as loners? Or look at disruptions to our routine as opportunities to connect with others? Honestly, I'm a loner too. I prefer being by myself most of the time rather than hanging out with people. But when I find life a little too lonely for my liking, it might be because I've been ignoring opportunities for connection that life sent my way. Probably because they are disguised as disruptions and inconveniences. I get it, life is busy. I know, because I've been juggling a job, a YouTube channel, a master's degree, and looking after a baby. My to-do list is endless, and it doesn't help that my productivity is really bad. But ever so often, life presents us with the opportunity to make a big difference in someone's life just by doing something small. We could just focus on what we want from a Yanami, or provide a listening ear for them to air their grievances. We could avoid uncomfortable drama, or go after a yakishio, even if we're not close to them, to make sure they're okay. We could bulldoze over an incompetent Komari in the spirit of pragmatism, or try to understand what they're struggling with to build a stronger team. But why bother with all this extra effort anyway? Because as a Chinese proverb reminds us, if you want happiness for an hour, take a nap. If you want happiness for a day, go fishing. If you want happiness for a year, inherit a fortune. But if you want happiness for a lifetime, help someone else. But if Nukumizu has taught us one thing as a protagonist, it's that romance is not always the ideal outcome of every romance anime. Even till the end of the series, Nukumizu is absolutely terrible at sparking any romantic tension with any of the three heroines. Instead, the anime subverts expectations by having all the characters grow through deep and fulfilling friendships. They show us that you don't always need romance to enjoy someone's company, because sometimes the best endings don't come at the end of a love story. As for Nukumizu, he might be bland and unexciting like tap water, but at the same time, he was the soothing, warm water that the three heroines needed. And perhaps that was what the anime intended for him to be all along. Bland, simple, and forgettable most of the time, but exactly what you need when life gets a little too cold outside. The question is, who will you give a cup of warm water to today? Hit subscribe for more insights from the world of anime to help you improve your life and relationships.